Welcome to Rock Solid Productions, where in this episode we are going to unbox and test out and feature a whole lot of gameplay footage of the Hyperkin Retron SQ. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, Gary here with Rock Solid Productions. Now, before we dive into today's episode featuring the Hyperkin Retron SQ, I just want to take a second and thank you for stopping by and checking out what we have going on here today. I really do appreciate it. If you like what you see here, if you want to see more, we have an entire Hyperkin playlist dedicated just towards Hyperkin products. We have other playlists on the channel too, other content that you may be interested in. And if you really want to stay informed and up to date, not just what we have going on here today, but into the future, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. That way every time we upload new content, you are kept informed and up to date. Now behind me, what I want to know from you, we've got the Animaniacs, Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. This is playing through my Game Boy player on my Nintendo GameCube. I want to know, did you happen to have a Game Boy player for your GameCube? And if not, did you ever want one? Side kind of question too, have you seen the new Animaniacs and what did you think? The first couple episodes I've only gotten through, but it's pretty good. They've done a pretty faithful job at recreating the chemistry that the original series had. So in 2020, Hyperkin announced that they were coming out with what they called the Retron SQ. It actually went through a slight name change to Retron SQ, but this is designed to play your Game Boy Color, Game Boy, and Game Boy Advanced, and that's a beta feature, on your television without needing a GameCube, a Game Boy player, a Game Boy player disc. It's one of those things where it just consolidates everything into one nice, small, neat package. Now, they also have a very similar function built into their Retron 5 console, which they're re-releasing in new colors and with an additional controller. Word on the street is we're going to be getting a review sample of that too, so make sure you stay tuned. This is one of those things that for folks who have wanted to be able to play their Game Boy games on the TV at under $80, it's really an interesting option out there. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this, we're going to throw it on the bench, we're going to see how it comes out of the box, we're going to check out how the cartridges fit and everything, and we are going to play some games on it. And in addition to games, we're also going to try some of the Game Boy Advanced movie cartridges too. Come on, let's get started. So checking out the Retron SQ on the bench. Now there are two different color variants. We have the black gold here. There's also like a beach theme, I think is what they're calling it. Game Boy Color. Those are definitively packed in. The Game Boy Advance, they're calling a beta at this point. I don't understand why, because, I mean, they have finalized Game Boy Advance software for the Retron 5 and it works fine. Okay. On the bottom here, Retron SQ, HD gaming console, and you get a good look at the system itself. Now, one thing again, much like the Hyper Podium, there's no dog ear to the box, so I wonder if that is something the Hyperkin is going away from in their box aesthetic. Just something of note. Have the name on the bottom there. On the back, compatible with Game Boy and Game Boy Color cartridges via open source software, compatibility with Game Boy Advance cartridges, beta function, upscales to 720p, 4:3 and 16:9 aspect ratio. I understand that's not the exact aspect ratio of the screen. One wired USB Scout controller with a 10-foot cable, included memory card slot for firmware updates, 3-foot HD cable, and 6-foot USB Type-C cable with an AC adapter. Now there is just a little piece of tape here that I have already gone ahead and cut open. We have the system in the front, which we're going to pull out of the plasticware. Pretty nice looking. I mean, very simple. I thought at first, like these tabs, when I saw the photos, like that would be an eject mechanism, but it's not. We'll take a closer look at the system itself in a moment. Also in the box. So this appears to be the USB power cable. So yes, USB-C power cable, and this would be your power brick. I'm always interested to see what they throw in here for power supplies. Here you can see it is a 5-volt, 1-amp output on there, so nothing too powerful, but still 1 amp versus 500 milliamps, so halfway decent there. And then we have another little box here. This is likely the controller. So HD cable, or HD cable if you prefer. And then there is the wired USB Scout, which we'll check out here. One last little thing we're going to check out before we look at the controller and the system up close. It does come with a Hyperkin logo decal you can put on your car. Play well. Thank you for your purchase and support. The instruction manual, which we will go through in a few moments. So here is the Scout controller. I mean, it's pretty similar to their other Scouts that they have in the past. It probably pulled from the exact same mold. But the major difference on this one, first of all, you have the gold buttons here. And second of all, you do have a USB connection on the end here versus going something to a Super Nintendo. So, I mean, I've always liked the Scout controllers. I think they felt good. This one feels about the same as any of the others. Let's take a look at the instruction sheet real quick. So the top button is power, bottom is reset, and then you've got your controller input, and then you've got the game slot obviously on the top. Looking on the back, you have your USB Type-C port along with the memory card, your HD output, and your selection switch for 4x3 or 16x9. The memory card stores the console software, license, text file, and other important files. For more information of the open source license, please go to our website at hyperkin.com/Retron SQ. Now, one thing here too important, your memory card must be inside the memory card slot to operate the Retron SQ. Do not remove the memory card while the console is powered on. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it talks about playing cartridges, setting up the system and everything, but there's not much here. So looking at the system itself again, power, reset, USB for the controller port and everything here. Nothing on that side. Nothing on that side. One thing that caught my eye is the fact that they used Allen screws here versus using a Phillips or even a Torx bit. Nothing on the bottom besides cooling. And then on the back you do have that Type-C port, that memory card slot, HDMI output, and then your selector switch. I want to see how easy or difficult. Oh, that pops right out. Now, the pins go up, and on the Retron 77 they kind of used some fluid to remove the name on the memory card. They didn't on this one. It is a 512 megabyte card, so good to know there. I mean, huge storage. I would say with the custom OS and everything that this uses, I would guess that at some point in time people are going to hack the software so you can run ROMs. So to check how the pins fit, I just grabbed a Game Boy cartridge, and then this is one of the video cartridges for the Game Boy Advance. So Game Boy, not a death grip at all. I mean, I would say it's pretty darn identical to what a regular Game Boy would be. That's good. That's really good. Let's check on the Game Boy Advance cartridge. Yeah, same thing. Comes in and out. And you can see how much lower this sits on the system versus what the Game Boy cartridge did. Overall, nice little piece of hardware here. Nothing too, elaborate to look at. As far as, I mean, there's nothing much going on here. It's got a cartridge slot, a USB slot, power and reset buttons, and your outputs on it. So we're going to hook it up, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do some testing. So before we go ahead and get to gameplay, there's some other minor features on the Retron SQ and some quirks that I do want to bring up. First and foremost, it is software, not hardware emulation, meaning it's going to dump the ROM off of the cartridge and play it locally off of memory built into the system. So as such, depending on the game, your load time may be faster or slower depending on the game. Keep that in mind, your mileage may vary. Secondly, connecting to my system, normally I have on my HDMI switcher box, I have an extra cable coming off just to go to items for review. It's just an input dedicated specifically for that. The Retron SQ would not work going through my switcher box. I actually had to bypass that altogether and go straight into my capture card. So I don't know if that is a form of HDCP that Hyperkin has built into the system, if that's something that could be bypassed or disabled in a future firmware update, something that I would like to see Hyperkin do in the future. Finally, one of the things I tested out as well is I really do like Hyperkin's wireless Scout and Cadet controllers. They work very, very well. I tried connecting the dongles for each of these to the Retron SQ via a USB cable, showed power, showed that they were connected, did not do anything. Then I bypassed that dongle completely and just went from the USB ports into the Retron SQ. Did not work at all. I tried a number of different USB-based controllers with the Retron SQ, and I will say to this point, nothing besides the stock controller worked. So all of that out of the way, we are going to dive into the game that sold millions of Game Boys, and that's Tetris, which we have up on screen right now, and I'm going to unmute so that I can hear what's going on as well. So we're going to go in here, type A, level 0. Why are you not going sideways? Okay. Well, that's concerning already that we're having some input lag issues. That's definitely concerning, especially, I mean, this is just a puzzle game. I'm hoping that that may have been just something with the way the firmware loaded. We'll see as we get further on in this and to other games as well. Yeah, it's having issues with directional input side to side. It is not registering as it really should. That's concerning. All right, we'll get a Tetris here. Now, for me, I've got some great memories with Tetris. I remember playing this in my dad's Bonneville as we were heading. He took me downtown Milwaukee to go to the Nintendo World Championships the year that it was there. And it was one of those things where Tetris was known as one of the games. I'm going to have to drop this down here to try to get some of these blocks out of the way. You know, it was kind of known that Tetris was going to be one of the games played that you had to bypass to move on and do well in the competition. So I was playing for everything that I had in the front seat of my dad's car as we headed downtown Milwaukee. So not a Tetris. Oh, we got another long piece there though, which will definitely help. Right there. Okay. So Tetris, I mean, and as you can see here too, it is the Game Boy Color palette and everything already applied. I'm still not digging the lag and the delay that I'm getting on, and it's only in one direction. It's only to the left. So we will definitely test it out with more games here. I mean, this is not the biggest test of a D-pad. Let's move on to an action platformer, and one I think many of you will know quite well. So real quick too, I just wanted to give you a look at the different aspect ratios. So here is 16:9, and here is 4:3, which is what we will be playing everything here in, just because it's what looks the best to me. So interesting to note that it is applying like the Game Boy Color type palette addition to the games, but it doesn't give you any choices as far as the color palette that you're using. Also, looking at the bottom of the screen here, it is actually cutting off part of the lower display, and I've resized my screen. It's doing that natively, which, again, not a fan of. So we'll go. Wow, again, this D-pad is not good. Yeah, the button presses seem just fine. The D-pad, and actually while playing, the D-pad is not seeming poor. It's through things like menus or like in Tetris where you're not doing a long hard press. If you're just tapping, it doesn't seem like it's having the same issue that like just navigating through a menu is. So maybe that's a sensitivity setting in the way that the system is reading your inputs. You know, this game very much inspired by Super Mario Bros. 3. You can see based on the graphics and everything. An addition that they made over the original Super Mario Land as well is the fact that you do have a proper fireball now too, where you only had the bouncy ball in the original one. Now, because you were monochromatic on a Game Boy screen, what they did is they actually gave the different feathers or helmets, for Mario, so you could quickly identify, you know, if you had different power-ups and whatnot. Now, one thing that I have not seen yet here, no save states or anything. Now there I had an issue again where the D-pad did not want to go to the left. So that's definitely something I'm going to let Hyperkin know about, is the fact that the D-pad not working terrifically. Oh. So I was going to try to show you some gameplay from my copy of Ducktales 2, but I can't get past this screen. And it's one of those things where I've tested the cartridge in other systems, in my Game Boy player for my GameCube. I've cleaned the game. It will not load. So definite game compatibility issue here that, again, I'm hoping Hyper can address in the future. And this is Game Boy, not Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. This is Game Boy. So you saw me have it playing in the background in the open. This is Animaniacs, and this is one of the games for the Game Boy that was also designed for use with the Game Boy Color. That's why you see the splashes of color on here. So let's start this guy out. So it seems like the Y is a turbo. Same with X. All right, so I've got to pull this over here. It's annoying that you can't run in this. We'll have Wacko, Yakko, and Dot here kind of running amok. Not as good as the NES or even the Genesis versions that are out here of this game. So it's interesting how, and there's the password screen, how you can use the different warners to go ahead and basically go through each level. And on this, I'm not having any control issues, so... Oh, why the long face? Okay, now we've played enough Game Boy games. Let's move up to Game Boy Color. Here we have Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Color. It's amazing that they actually ported this over there. So that is B. And you select to go back between the two. It's amazing what they were able to do with the limited hardware of the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. I mean, even the soundtrack on this, for what it is a lot better than it deserves to be. I mean, you pretty much have the Super NES game here on a system that is nowhere near powerful to run Super NES graphics and whatnot, which is pretty exciting. Now, this did take significantly longer to load than the standard Game Boy cartridges, which I completely expected, but it was significant. I don't know, again, if it's kind of like running RetroArch where different cores work differently. No D-pad issue here. So that tells me that that the issues that I ran into and experienced were completely, or at least most likely, software and not hardware related. Super Mario Bros. Advanced for Super Mario Bros. 3, one of the best games on the platform. As you can see, the aspect ratio is now slightly different to closer represent what the Game Boy Advance screen had. I am noticing like major frame drop here. I don't know if anyone else is seeing that. I'm gonna have to check. I mean, it shouldn't matter on the render, but the frame rate is off. It's clearly off to me, at least. Now, one of the nice things there was the fact that I was able to use the, I believe it's the X button as a turbo, basically, to fly or float down. Ah! That was one of those things where just the scrolling and whatnot didn't feel right. Now watch Mario as he moves around the map. To me, that's kind of blurry. I will say between the Retron 5 and this, the Retron 5, at least initially, seems to do a better job, in my opinion. You know what we're gonna do, just to compare apples to apples, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna fire up our Game Boy player here on our GameCube and compare side by side, because at least for Game Boy Advance games, I'm not digging this. Let's fire up our GameCube. So, same cartridge and everything that we were just playing in the Retron SQ. So, let's watch Mario's animation. That to me looks smoother. Now, even on something like this, I mean, it's not true, you know, one-to-one what you would see on original hardware, but man, graphically, this looks vastly superior to me. I mean, I was thinking it was just me, but it's not. It is an issue with the Retron SQ. And now, here's to be completely fair, the Retron SQ, the GBA software, as they state, is in beta. So I would like to see that hopefully any frame rate issues and whatnot, like what I was just experiencing, do get addressed, because that's not cool. And nice thing here too is you can, you know, it proves that I was actually playing on the Retron SQ before. Oh, that was dumb. Because of the fact that you've got the borders now around here on the Game Boy player on the GameCube. Not a great experience, I will say, for starters. Let's try one more game and then one more special card. Star Wars: The New Droid Army. So we're gonna go because I haven't played in a long time, though I'm going to go down to Padawan. So it has kind of an isometric sort of look to it. I mean, it plays, it's doing everything it's supposed to do, and it does use the shoulder buttons as well, which not all Game Boy Advance games did. Now, one thing interesting about the Game Boy Advance is the fact that it could actually play movies. While not commonly used, it was something that the system could do. So what we're going to do, we actually have two different of those video cartridges. One of them that is a Nickelodeon kind of combo cartridge, and one that is Shrek 2. Now, I will tell you, I have already tried Shrek 2. Does not play, but let's take a look at that Nickelodeon collection. To the best of my knowledge, these things do not work with the Game Boy player, but here you have it, the Nicktoon Collections Volume 2. Let's press start and see what we have. Oddball, having a problem with the controller getting out, and there we go. Nature Pants from SpongeBob, there's Opposite Day. Looks like there's only 4 episodes. So there you can see, I mean, we'll play just a few seconds of this because I don't want to get copyright ID matched. So pause, start, press any button to continue. Searching. And that's all of that we're going to play because, again, I don't want to get a copyright ID match. But pretty interesting that this will play some of the video cartridges out there. Like I mentioned, I also bought Shrek 2. That did not play. We've gone through a heck of a lot of games on here. What do I think of the system overall? Well, the controller is comfortable, but there are responsiveness issues. It seems to be more software than hardware related because I've had issues with multiple directions where in some games, down wasn't working as it should. Other games, left wasn't working as it should. So that's something I definitely would like to see them clean up in the firmware. Speaking of the firmware, I understand that the software and everything right now is still in beta, but the frame rate in Mario Advanced was terrible. As you saw comparing it to what we were playing on the Game Boy player itself. I would say if you're looking for GBA games, not yet, and in fact I would probably recommend the Retron 5 instead. $50 more, but you do get a lot more systems that system is compatible with. Overall, good size, decent performance on Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, and like I mentioned, the issues there with the Game Boy Advance. Now it's time for final thoughts and to wrap things up. So since I concluded filming on my review, there has been an update provided by Hyperkin on the Retron SQ here. They are aware of some of the complaints as far as the blurry picture, and they are working on a day 1 patch. So there will be a firmware update. They are hoping as soon as these start shipping to the public. Now in a few days from right now, I will actually be filming a tutorial to show you how to do that firmware update. That is one of the nice things about this system, is the fact that it does have that micro SD card slot on the back, and I do feel like Hyperkin is taking a similar approach to this device as they did with their Retron 77, and that is to have something that is really adopted and driven by the community. For this myself, I would rather see a more refined product out of the box and have the community work on things like enhancements, being able to have different color palettes or filters or things along those lines. I will also say that the fact, and I mentioned this during the gameplay footage, the aspect ratio is still all wrong. It should not be 4:3. It should be more like a, is it 9:10 or 10:9 or something like that. The 4:3 aspect ratio is incorrect by quite a bit. In some ways, the 16:9 might even be more accurate than 4:3. But I did want to add this little addendum to our review before I give you my final thoughts, which are coming up right now. So in the end, what do I think of the Retron SQ? Well, first and foremost, I will say the included controller, I have really dug the Scout since I first tried it, and this is another good iteration of it. Now, I did have input issues, but I'm thinking that is more software and hardware related on the system itself than on the controller. Now, I did try different controllers, and they did not work. This was the only controller that I could get to work. Is this the best way for you to play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance on your TV. And right now, I will say it's not even the best way to play it from Hyperkin. Hyperkin's Retron 5 does a better job handling those systems than what this one here does. I don't understand. I'm not one of their engineers, so I don't know everything that's gone into this. I don't understand why it doesn't work at least as well as the Retron 5s did. I understand that's an Android operating system. This, we don't have access to the OS, so I don't know what it's running on. It could be something custom, it could be Android itself. But overall, the Retron 5 does a much better job with the Game Boy Advance games, and I would say a similar job with the Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. But now what you get out of the Retron 5 is you get things like other filters and things like that that you can add, which this does not give you. So that's important to note too. On the Retron 5, you also have the ability to play using an NES gamepad, which may feel more natural, it does for me, for playing traditional Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, and not until you get to the Game Boy Advance does using a Super NES controller feel quite right. Load times on Game Boy games, not too bad. Game Boy Colors, they're getting bad. Game Boy Advance, make yourself a sandwich because they take a while to load. But that is because of the way that this is working. It's dumping the ROM into local memory. I would much rather see just a hardware emulator that allows you to do that and bypass all of this software, especially if you're not going to add additional features like color palettes, borders, button programmability, things along those lines, which would all be nice to have in a software emulation system such as this. Now, this is only $79.99, where the Retron 5, $130 to $160, depending on where you shop. So there is a considerable price difference. But with the Retron 5, you get access to be able to play Famicom, NES, Super NES, Super Famicom, Genesis, Mega Drive, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. I think there's like 10 different systems that you can play, especially if you get their additional adapter that'll let you play Game Gear, Master System, and then the cards from the Master System too. I think you can play upwards of 10 total systems on the Retron 5. So I half wonder if they didn't get this out to market now just to help satisfy those who are looking and asking about it, because they have teased other projects that quite honestly have been delayed for one reason or another. We all know COVID has delayed production for many different things. Many people are asking about their x86 system. I think it's the x88 headset for the Xbox got delayed for quite some time. The Ultra 64 is another one that's been delayed and hasn't come out since its initial announcement in 2019. So I half wonder, with this being more software than hardware based, if the thought was, let's get it out into people's hands, get them to use it, and then we will release updates and firmware patches later on to help go ahead and address any issues. Not a super huge fan of that. I would rather have a more finished product out to market first and then be able to go ahead and add features later on versus fixing things like low frame rates, load time, compatibility. Those are all issues that I'd like to see addressed later on, maybe down the road, but out of the box, the system simply needs to work. But these are just my opinions. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Am I all wet? Am I seeing things in the frame rates on the Game Boy Advance games that you did not see? Let me know down in the comment section. If you've got any other comments or questions, as always, you can also feel free to email me at rocksolidmail@gmail.com. You can send me a message on Twitter at RockSolidStudios. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/RockSolidProductions and Instagram at instagram.com/RockSolidProductionsGK. Now, if you still want to order one of these, we will have a link down below in a pinned comment where you'll be able to get these through CastlemaniaGames.com. The wonderful thing over there too is every time you do purchase through CastlemaniaGames.com, you earn Castle Cash. That is his rewards program where the more you spend, the more you earn towards future purchases, and Castle Cash is just like cash. Now, generally on systems doesn't apply, but you can also try promo code RockSolid10 to save 10% off of most items on the website. Overall, A lot of promise. I'm really interested to see if this gets the community support like what the Retron 77 did. Once the community got their hands on this, you saw ROM dumps and you saw the ability to add ROMs to the system or expand the number of ROMs that you could add to the system. The fact that it uses Stella to drive that system really opened it up to be a community-based item. I'd like to see the community get behind this and do things like be able to dump ROMs straight to the SD card. The fact that it's a 512 megabyte card, there's a lot of data that you can put on here. Speaking of a lot of data, you might want to check out some additional data that we have on other systems and reviews coming up now. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like to support the future of Rock Solid Productions, you can do so by visiting our Patreon page at patreon.com/rocksolid. For as little as $1 a month, $12 a year, you'll get early access to all of our video content, exclusive content, and a whole lot more. You can also become a channel member here on YouTube for as little as $1.99 a month, and with that, you get a badge next to your name when you comment or post on the channel, and you are acknowledged whether you are a channel member or a Patreon supporter at the end of each and every one of our videos. You can also support the channel by visiting our Teespring store on screen now, where we have t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, masks, cell phone cases, and much more. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.